The M5 is in the garage. We had to play musical chairs real quick, move everything around, but it's in the garage and we're finally ready to do the suspension. So I bought a cheap suspension kit because mine is completely blown out and I'm not quite sure the route I want to go with this car, so I don't want to buy a $1,000 OEM kit. And also I am not too fond or knowledgeable about suspension, so I figured let me buy a cheap kit, let me figure out what I'm doing, what is better and what needs to be replaced off the bat before I go and buy the most expensive kit possible and have no idea how to install it. So I'm gonna learn on a cheap kit. I'm gonna get this car somewhat dialed in. Once I figure everything out and I see the results and I understand the differences between each arm and how it performs, we will go through once again and I will buy a legit kit. This kit was cheap enough to just do it and learn about it, so that way I don't mess up any of the bushings. And then overall, within like what, a couple thousand miles, I will order up a good kit and I will do everything once again the right way. To make this job easier, I went ahead and ordered a Milwaukee Impact. Got the battery charging right here. We do have a pickle fork and I bought a ball joint separator. I don't know, I gotta find it. It's somewhere in that bag. But I did buy the somewhat correct tools. I didn't cheap out on the Impact. Made sure I went and got something legit. So that's gonna be charging up and that should help greatly. But other than that, let's go ahead and start. I'm gonna do one side on my own, figure everything out, and then I'll come back and I'll show you guys the other side. We got my pride and joy on the good old trusty Harbor Freight jack stands. No more having to put my car on the ground just to take off the wheels. I love an Impact. It's my first time using it. This is beautiful. Okay, this should be all we need. We have the pickle fork, the separator. I have a normal hammer, 4-pound sledge, flex ratchet, torque wrench, somewhat breaker bar. We'll see how it works. Our good old trusty Pittsburgh sockets and a Milwaukee Impact. So I'm gonna go under there and I'm gonna take a quick brief look and see if there's any orientation on which way I should do what first. But other than that, I'm gonna set up a light and I'm just gonna go ahead and dive in and hopefully I can get this stuff done. Sheesh, I've learned a lot so far. I think this has taken about 2.5 hours, maybe 3 already. Had to go reverse a couple things. Other than that, everything's in so far. We have both lower arms, sway bar link, and the tie rod is in. Couple little complications. I would say more than a couple, honestly. I think every arm we had was stuck or stubborn. As you can see, these are original BMW arms. The focus is right there. And then look at these bushings. Every single one is like this. Everything moves very freely. Nothing's holding it back. I can move it and the arm is just stationary. These are all original. Same thing, this is the tie rod. So look at this. This is disgusting. So those are the 4 arms right there. Complete trash. So everything in there is now new, including brand new coilovers, new rotors, brake pads. Now we have all new arms. So this thing should, in theory, be pretty mint, unless the sway bar is messed up. But I did check the bracket when I was in there and it was perfect. The bushing was great. So everything in there looks good. I'm kind of afraid. I feel like this is kind of towed in a little bit more than it should be. But I guess we won't really tell until we do the other side and put this thing on the ground. But it looks a little towed in, and the steering wheel, I put it straight and I moved it a little bit on the wheel. I just put it back where it kind of seemed like it wasn't so towed in. So this thing for sure is gonna need an alignment. I try to get the tie rod as close as I can, but it ended up being 35 spins out, and then it was like sort of a half, maybe a little more. So I lined it up the best I could. It was pretty much all the way in there. So I put it back as close as I could get it. So we'll see. I'll clean up this side and then let's see how fast I can knock out the other side. Now I know what I'm doing. Both sides are done. I was gonna film more of the process, but this was a pain in the ass, and everything was super seized and super old. So both sides are complete. We have fresh arms, sway bar links, tie rods. I just brake cleaned the rotors, get all the grease and grime off them from when I touched. You can see all the stuff under the car. So I'm gonna throw the wheels on, make sure I don't hear anything. I already turned the wheel and just shook it back and forth. There was no clunks, there was no weird noises, nothing seemed loose. I didn't put the car on the ground to tighten them, but I put wood on the jack on the brake rotor, and I jacked it up, and I tightened all the arms on the actual car, the ones that connect to the body. I tightened those, torqued those down. I didn't torque them, but I put a, where is it at? I put a breaker bar and I tightened it as much as I could. So they're good enough. I did that while the car was jacked up. So everything should be technically torqued down with weight on the car. So there shouldn't be any weird issues. Nothing should bind. Everything's tight. I went over everything 3 times. Like I said, these are the old arms. So I'm gonna throw it on, take the car for a test drive. And if everything's good, then we're good. But if I hear any weird noises or any weird clunks, then I'll come back in the garage, take the wheels off, and diagnose what is messed up. Suspension feels decent. Alignment isn't crazy. It's just not really self-adjusting too much. Wherever you kind of put it, it stays. But we have bigger issues. I was getting the car up to temp, and I finally did a pull, and now we are down what seems like at least 4 cylinders. I would be surprised if this thing's even running on 3. This thing is choppy as hell, no power, sounds terrible. So taking it back home, we'll see what's wrong with it now. I scanned the car, there was no codes, there was nothing new. I already had check engine light for the air injection system, secondary air pump. So that was the only code there. Everything's fine. I reset the code, started the car. Everything seems fine. The car's not stumbling no more. It revs fine. So maybe just the ground came loose. I'll check it tomorrow, but it's already like 12 o'clock at night. So that's about it. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and we'll pick it up from there.